Detroit Lions will in the city, where the road meets the night, the Lions charge, ready for the fight. No more hearts and steadfast pride. Detroit spirit, we wear it white. Feel the drive, hear the crowds embrace. Rock on, Detroit Lions will rise. With our hearts full of dreams and the fire in our eyes. From the past to the future, we'll claim our own. In the home of the brave, we'll proudly have grown. In the city, where the road meets the night, the Lions charge, ready for the fight. Noble hearts and steadfast pride. Detroit spirit, we wear it white. Feel the drive, hear the crowds embrace. Rocked on, Detroit Lions will rise. Rocked on, Detroit Lions will rise. With our hearts full of dreams and the fire in our eyes. From the past to the future, we'll claim our own. In the home of the brave, we'll proudly have grown. With every game, we rise and unite. Feeling the passion igniting the light. Through highs and lows, we'll stand as one. A legacy, a tale that's just begun. Together we roar. Together we roar. Detroit Lions will rise. With our hearts full of dreams and the fire in our eyes. From the past to the future, we'll claim our own. In the home of the brave, we'll proudly have grown. So let's lift our voices. Let's turn it up loud. For the love of the Lions, we'll always be proud.
All right, welcome into Rock Down Detroit Lions. We're going to be getting into a topic this week that has just been on fire. But first, before we get rolling here, let me make sure I get a chat open. See who we have with us tonight. I know it's not the regular time. I usually like to get on around 7, but you guys know how life goes. A lot of stuff going on today. So I wanted to get in earlier and talk about Tanner Engstrand and what's going on here and why does it seem like we're just going to lose everybody. So was Tanner passed over? Is he bitter? Is he going to head out? We're going to talk about that in just a moment, but there was another guy that was let go today from the Detroit Lions. We're going to talk about him too. And I've got a few names. That might interest the Lions. And I'm going to give you a few of those guys too. So we're going to get into all that here. It's not going to be terribly long, but we're going to get into this subject matter tonight and see what we can't figure out. So, it was just a year ago that the Lions completely blew a 17-point lead. And it was after that halftime lead, in the NFC Championship game, that Dan Campbell went to the podium and he said, that might have been our only shot. And he kind of said the same thing to the players. That might have been our only shot. A lot of us thought, well, what is he talking about? Come on, this team is loaded. We're only going to get better in this draft. But I don't think that he was really talking about the players. I don't think that he was talking about, the team from the sense that, the players are not going to be able to get us back. It was the coaches. And knowing that the coaches were going to get poached. He knew it. We knew it was going to happen. Matter of fact, we expected it to happen after that game. And it didn't. And we are given another season with relatively the same team, same coaches, same everything. And now it was a year later. The Lions get all the way to the 1 seed. We accomplished some things that nobody thought could happen with all the injuries. And then we exit this year's playoffs without even a win. We didn't even make it back to the NFC Championship game. And the Lions definitely fell short of not only their goal for this season, but now it's a real situation brewing in Allen Park, right? I mean, Not only are we going to lose a lot of players this season, players that aren't under contract, players that you're just going to have to move off from, but it's this prophecy, right, of Dan Campbell bringing us to the promised land. Is it going to happen? Are we starting to have a little bit of doubt? How many coaches can we lose, and can we remain the same dominant team in 2025? The short answer for me is yes. And the reason why is regardless of who we lose from a coaching perspective, we still have Jared Goff. We still have Jahmyr Gibbs, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jamison Williams, David Montgomery, Sam Laporta. I mean, 4 of the 5 starting offensive linemen are still under contract. Aiden Hutchinson should be healthy and ready to go to anchor this defense. Zadarius Smith wasn't on this roster at the beginning of last year, but he is this year. DJ Reader's coming back. Amik Robertson's coming back. Kirby Joseph should be coming back, unless Brad gets a wild hair up his ass and wants to trade him. Talked about that earlier today. So honestly, it should be rinse and repeat here in 2025, but at some point that window starts to close. The window, the mythical window that everybody talks about. I don't know. For me, just spray a little Windex on it, clean it up, let's go. That's how I feel. Open the damn window up. What are you waiting for? Grease those hinges a little bit. There's no reason to worry as long as you do the right things. As long as you build a culture the way that the Lions have, we should never have to have a seed of doubt sowed into our heads thinking that we can't get back, that we can't compete. And just because we're losing a boatload of coaches, it shouldn't be any different, right? It just shouldn't. The players make the team. The players have to execute. Dan Campbell's going to put forth the game plan, and then the coaches have to execute. But I'm more concerned with the players that are on the field, more so than I am the coaches on the sideline. Yep, they still have to call the plays. Jared Goff still has to run the plays. Maybe this year he'll get a little bit more flexibility. Maybe he'll be able to call a few more plays himself. So the first part of this that I want to throw out is what the hell has just happened, right? It's been, my goodness, it's January 28th. And this whole circus started on January 20th, 8 days ago. 8 days ago, Ben Johnson was hired as the head coach for the Bears. I'm sorry, Benedict Johnson was hired as the head coach of the Bears. And then we heard that Hank Fraley was going to be a lead candidate for an offensive coordinator position in Chicago, but instead he went out to Seattle and interviewed for the Seahawks position. So we're thinking, great, Fraley's gone. And then the guy that I thought was the shoo-in to be the defensive coordinator decided to go join Vrabel in New England. Terrell Williams hired as the Patriots defensive coordinator. And then the same day, Aaron Glenn is hired as the Jets head coach on the 22nd of January. But on that same day, then the Lions hired defensive line coach Casey Rogers. And on the same day, the Lions were going to interview Larry Foote. Or at least word was out that we were going to interview Larry Foote. Then 2 days later, on the 24th, the Lions find out that Hank Fraley is going nowhere. And according to his wife, there was never a thought in their mind to go to Chicago. But on that same day, we found out that Ben poached Antoine Randall L. and J.T. Barrett from the Lions. And then that brings us to the 25th of January, where the Lions decided not to go outside the organization, and instead they promoted Calvin Shepard to defensive coordinator. They also promoted Sean Dion Hamilton. I don't know how I missed this one, but they promoted Sean Dion Hamilton to the linebackers coach. And then on the 28th, today, it became official that the Lions officially hired John Morton as the offensive coordinator. But we also parted ways with the defensive line coach, assistant defensive line coach, Cam Davis. And then news broke about, 5, 6, 7 hours ago, whatever it was, sometime around noon, that the Jets are now closing in on hiring Tanner Engstrand as their next offensive coordinator. Here's the funny thing for me. I can only imagine. If Aaron Rodgers lasts in New York, if he doesn't retire, could you imagine Tanner having to call plays with Aaron Rodgers? Aaron would probably be like, yeah, dude, just, go talk to somebody else. I got this. I could just see that out of Aaron. He's not going to want to listen to Tanner Engstrand. I mean, I get it. You're in a position for a reason, but I mean, Rodgers is not only, he's too good, right? He's too smart. He's been doing it for a long time. I just don't see him getting along with anybody. I don't care who it is. And I think that's all the more reason why Aaron Glenn is going to make sure he's not on the roster this year. They're going to have to force him to retire, which I don't think that Aaron Rodgers would want to force himself to retire. Why not? Cash in, dude. They owe you like $65 million. He's going to take it to the bank. But it's more important to me to see that, the guys that stayed loyal to this team. Now, I'm not saying that the guys that left, I have no bad blood towards them other than Ben Johnson for going to Chicago. That'll work itself out. That'll work itself out twice a year when the Lions have to go up against Chicago, and Ben is going to learn a very hard lesson. But Hank Fraley's sticking around. I mean, not only was he very important to the Lions, very, very important to the Lions' offensive line. I mean, you could see and hear and read, a lot of what our offensive line was talking about. The fact that he stayed and how important that was. So the other guy that so far has stayed put is, let's see. Well, I mean, promoting Calvin Shepard. I mean, I think that was a no-brainer. That was going to happen. But he really wasn't going off to get interviewed anywhere else, or at least that we knew of. We don't know if he was getting any calls. But Mark Brunell is also safe right now. From what we can tell, he hasn't decided to go anywhere else. And then you look at who we hired this week so far. I mean, it was a lot of promotions. You promoted Sean Dion Hamilton. You promoted Calvin Shepard. You did let go, Cam Davis. Obviously, that's because, Casey Rogers probably has a different plan. Maybe somebody else that they're going to promote or somebody they're looking at bringing in. And I guess, for me, with the departure of Williams, I mean, hiring Casey Williams couldn't have been a better move. I mean, Shepard's going to have Casey Rogers working under him now, and I think that's going to be a great pair. Casey's going to be leading, obviously, the defensive line, and he's going to want an assistant that he knows and trusts. And I'm sure that Calvin Shepard's going to want to put guys in place that his assistants, will be able to know and trust. So Rodgers served as the defensive line coach and the run game coordinator for Tampa Bay. So he has, a wealth of knowledge, obviously, from that standpoint. He's been in the league a long time. Green Bay was also interested in Casey Rogers. So I guess it's a good move that we didn't allow that to happen too. We keep snaking players and coaches in front of Green Bay. Now with Ben Johnson gone, obviously we hired the former Denver passing game coordinator, John Morton. So he's now our OC, and we're ready to rock and roll. So now it's just filling in, some of these positions that are still open. And when I was digging into this today, I didn't realize how many positions we really have open, but you have the assistant defensive line coach, formerly Cam Davis's position. You have the assistant linebacker coach, which was Dion Hamilton's position. Linebacker coach, which is Calvin Shepard's position. And then, of course, Antoine Randall L. So we need a wide receivers coach. And then you have JT Barrett, who is the assistant quarterbacks coach to Mark Brunell. And now soon to be exiting the Detroit Lions is Tanner Engstrand. So we are going to need a passing game coordinator. Now, will some of these guys have doubled up positions? Will they, be dipping their toes in two positions? Possibly. But I can't imagine that the Lions wouldn't have a full boat of assistants to be able to, back these guys up and have plenty of eyes and ears on the game plan. So the question is, who do the Lions have on the roster right now, as far as coaches that are hired, that can step up into some of these roles? So I'm going to look at the Detroit Lions coaching page here on the website. So you still have Scotty Montgomery as the assistant head coach and the running backs coach. So he's still in play. He's still faithful, right? He's loyal. He hasn't gone anywhere. Haven't heard anything about Scotty going anywhere. Obviously, Mark Brunell's still in play. Tanner Engstrand's going to be gone. Hank Fraley's he's still there. But what about tight ends coach Steve Hayden? Is there anything about Steve Hayden that would tell us that, with his experience, that he could step into a different role? Or with the way that the, tight ends have been playing, do you want to mess with it? Does he want to be a wide receivers coach? Does he have the skills to be a wide receivers coach? I'm not so sure, but just taking a look at his bio, he entered his second season with the Lions as the tight ends coach in 2024, and it's his 12th season in the NFL as a coach. Now, in his first season in 23, obviously Hayden had a big hand in helping Sam Laporta reach a very historic rookie season, which obviously was smashed this year by Bowers. But under Hayden, Laporta set NFL records for the most receptions by a rookie tight end. And among all-time rookie tight ends in the NFL, Laporta led them all. So obviously those records are no longer there because Bowers obviously won up Sam Laporta this season. But the point that I'm making here is Steve Hayden obviously has some knowledge. He obviously knows what he's doing. He's helped Sam Laporta. But I will say this too, like I said in the very beginning, it's not just the coach. The player has to execute. So if you want to give this an 80-20, 80 to Sam and 20 to the coach, I would agree with that. Even if it's 60-40, I think that's a bit of a stretch. But I think that it's more the player on the field that is going to execute the game plan more so than the coach that is coaching these guys up throughout the week. These players have been playing the game for a long time. The coaches are there to help them understand all the nuances and differences, with the scheme and with the playbook, the play calls, that week's game plan, and a lot more that I don't know that they're doing. But Laporta's production in 2023, obviously, very impressive, very, very impressive. And so I think that a lot of that, has to do with how Hayden was able to coach him up throughout training camp and into the season. With Sam Laporta being the first Detroit Lions tight end to ever lead all NFL tight ends in receiving touchdowns in a single season. And that's pretty impressive, right? Now, prior to joining the Lions in 23, Hayden spent a decade coaching in various roles with the Cardinals. He was with the Cardinals offense from 2013 to 2022. Now, he left them as the longest tenured assistant coach in Cardinals history. He served as the assistant offensive line coach in 2018. He was an assistant special teams and assistant tight ends coach in 2013 to 2017 before being promoted to oversee the tight ends in his final 4 seasons. So he's a tight ends coach. That's what he is. Now, in 2021, he helped Zach Ertz excel in Arizona after being traded halfway through the season. He only played in 11 games with the Cardinals, but he caught 56 passes for 574 yards and 3 touchdowns while he was in Arizona that season. So he has directed tight ends to be, very affluent in the NFL. They've had great seasons. Can he do it? Can he do it for the wide receivers? That is a question that I don't know. But if you're looking at internal options, if you're looking at some internal options, that would be one. Wait, do we have crackling sounds again? I'm just seeing that right now. Uh-oh. Let me double check the internet. I'm going to turn my gain down too and see if that helps. Un momento. Yeah, I don't know what the crackling sounds are. It doesn't make any sense to me. But just let me know if I get too soft. So anyway, the other guys that are in the building still that could potentially help the Lions out is, Seth Ryan. He was the assistant wide receivers coach behind Antoine Randall. I mean, that seems like it's a lateral move for him, right? It's obviously an upgrade for his position. Let me know if the crackling got any better. I turned the gain down. That could be the main problem. So Seth Ryan, I mean, obviously he has legacy behind him with his family, and he's been doing it for quite a while. I mean, he joined the Lions as an assistant wide receivers coach in 2021, so he's been through this entire, organization's draft picks, and he's been working with Amon-Ra St. Brown from the very beginning. Previous 4 seasons, he was with the Los Angeles Chargers, where he served as a coaching intern from 2017 to 2018, and then an offensive quality control coach from 2019 to 2020. And under Ryan's, guidance, obviously in 2023, Amon-Ra St. Brown put together one of the most memorable seasons for a wide receiver in NFL history, but let alone Amon-Ra St. Brown. I mean, he had an amazing season. It was his first team all, AP All-Pro. And it was the third Lions wide receiver to do so. And among all wide receivers in 2023, St. Brown ranked first in 100-yard receiving games, which he had 9. And he was tied for second in receptions with 119 and third in receiving yards with 15 on the year. But again, not all of this belongs to the coach, right? Part of the process is the coach. The bigger part of the process is the player. So it's still crackling. Yeah, I've tested the mic. I've tested all the cables the other day. I mean, even this morning we didn't have any crackling, and I don't know what it is. I don't know where it's coming from. I ripped everything apart, redid everything, checked every cable, made sure that there was no cuts, nicks, scrapes, make sure there was no power cords that were too close to internet connections. I don't get it. I don't know. So I guess he's really the only guy that I see, internal wise, that could be an immediate upgrade for the Lions, to take that next step in his career, to become the wide receivers coach. I don't really see anybody else that's on this roster. I mean, you have Steve Oliver, who's an assistant offensive line coach. Does he have any experience coaching wide receivers? I mean, he's still pretty young. Now, he's in his 4th season with the Lions, but primarily working with the offensive line. Now, he was a former offensive lineman himself out of the University of San Diego, and he played for the Toreros from 2011 to 2015. So does he have experience? I would say he probably doesn't. Typically you want to see a wide receiver become a wide receivers coach, or someone that has been in that position for a long time, as a wide receivers coach, come to your team. So right now on this Lions roster for coaches, I think that the clear answer here is Seth Ryan. I think that if the Lions are going to continue to promote from within and then backfill maybe with some younger, lesser experienced assistants, that seems to be what they're doing, at least right now. Doesn't mean that they're not going to go in and look for guys that are becoming available. And to be honest with you, I wouldn't even be surprised, with a lot of these positions that are available, are they waiting till after the Super Bowl? Are there some guys that are on the Eagles and the Chiefs roster right now for coaches that they want to bring in? Possibly. Here's a few names that I compiled, at least for right now, for the offensive side, of the football. So how about Nick Cali? So, Nick has been kind of making his rounds around the league. He's been interviewed for an offensive coordinator over the last week or so. Hasn't landed a job yet. But he clearly has, an amazing wealth of knowledge as the pass game coordinator and the tight ends coach with the Rams. I mean, he's been doing it with, Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp, Tyler Higbee. He's been working with these guys. And under Kaylee's guidance in 23, obviously Tyler Higbee surpassed many franchise records and milestones. And Higbee eclipsed Harold Jackson and moved to the 14th in franchise history in receiving yards. So he definitely has some experience, right? But again, I'm going to say it for everybody. I'll just stop saying it. Part of that is the coach. A lot of that is the player. So Kaylee has mentored players such as Hunter Henry, Jonnu Smith during his time as the Patriots tight end coach. Under Kaylee's guidance in 2021, Henry finished with the third most receptions, 50, and receiving yards, 603, and receptions, 12.1. That was the best he's ever had in his career. You know, he was with the Patriots prior to joining the Rams, and he started off as a secondary coach at Eastern Illinois in 2012. And he helped the defense finish second in the Ohio Valley Conference in pass efficiency. He also coached safety Nick Beard, who was named a first-team All-Conference and helped Eastern Illinois finish the 2012 campaign as Ohio Valley Conference champions. So he has a mixture. You know, he has a mixture of experience. Prior to that, he was an assistant, a defensive administrative assistant for Auburn. I mean, pretty damn good school. He worked closely with defensive coordinator Paul Rhodes, and the Tiger secondary unit finished 19th nationally that season in pass defense. I almost like him better on the defensive side of the football, but in the NFL, he's been more on the offensive side of the football. So he's been around. I mean, he's been around. Obviously, he's been coaching for quite a long time. And Callie is, I mean, somebody that I would love, you know, to see make his way to Detroit, if at all possible. But I don't know that we have a position that he wants. You know, if he wants to be an offensive coordinator, obviously we don't have that position for him. So a few other names that popped up for me today. Obviously, the Chiefs wide receiver coach, Connor Embry. He's only 33 years old. He could take a step up. 49ers tight end coach, Brian Fleury. The 49ers wide receiver coach, Leonard Hankerson. And this one, Vikings senior offensive assistant, Chris O'Hara. So being a senior offensive assistant, he doesn't have the name tag yet of wide receivers coach, right? He needs something like that. So it could be a good leg up for him to take a promotion in Detroit. Obviously, you know, I'm saying a Viking should come to Detroit. It's not as bad as Ben going to Chicago. That's a bit different. Assistants are one thing. Wide receiver coaches, defensive line coaches, that's one thing. But offensive and defensive coordinators and head coaches and that's a little different, in my opinion. But anyway, like I said, I wouldn't put it past the Lions to wait until after the Super Bowl to try to fill some of these positions if they're looking at or interested in some of the guys that, you know, might be looking for an opportunity from the Eagles or the Chiefs perspective. But talking Tanner for just a moment, let me just bring in this screenshot here. That's not the right one. There you go. So obviously today it broke by Josina Anderson that she was told that Lions pass game coordinator Tanner Engstrand's name is already involved in substantive discussions for the pending Jets offensive coordinator role. And then I read a little bit earlier before I jumped on that Aaron Wilson, so he's an NFL reporter. You might see him, you know, on Twitter from here, you know, here or there. He added to this report, I guess, that he expressed confidence that Tanner's going to land the job. So it sounds like Tanner's all but gone, which means the Lions are going to have some work to do, obviously, to backfill their pipeline and hopefully get this team, you know, back in shape. But again, I'm not worried. I'm just not worried, you know, for the Lions right now in what they're building. They still have Dan Campbell, right? They still have Brad Holmes. And those two started this thing in 2021. And they built everything from the ground up. And they have some great pillars in place right now. They have an entire house built of success. Yep, they have to replace a couple of windows and a couple of doors right now. That's it. That's how I view it. The house is still there. Everything is intact. Just needs a little, you know, slap of paint. They're good to go. So I'm not worried. I think that the Lions are in great shape. I think that this season is going to be a success, and I'm ready for it. I'm ready to get to the draft, starting at the combine here in just a few weeks. But join me. Let's see. We're doing the Shrine. We're going to do the East-West Shrine Bowl coverage on, I believe, the 30th, and then the Reese's Senior Bowl on the 1st. So I'll be doing some coverage with that. We're going to watch it. I think they're all on NFL Network. If you have NFL Network, if you don't, I can try to play the audio and let's get a jump in at looking at some of these rookies that are coming in and see how they may become Detroit Lions. I don't know. This is our first look before we get to the combine. Rest of the week, we're going to jump into some free agency talk. Obviously, we're going to be talking about coaches and what's happening there. It's just kind of the topic of the day right now until the Lions are done hiring coaches. We're going to be talking about it. But tomorrow, we jumping into free agency and the draft. So we might even do a mock draft tomorrow morning and see how it goes. So that's all for today's update. Richard Blakely says, I'm with you, Will. We just need a little bit of a tune-up. That's right. Steve O says, I'm not worried about the wide receiver coach. Dan will find someone, and if he doesn't work out, Dan isn't afraid to make a move. I agree with that. I absolutely agree with that. You know, I'm still burned up about Dre Bly. I really thought that he was going to be a great coach for us and kind of help bridge, the past to the present, kind of like what Dan's doing. Didn't work out, but he wasn't afraid to move on. So Harpato says, Will, do you think that we will sign JMO? So, I've already spoken about that. Look, I think that there's two pathways to success here. If you're not going to sign Aiden, if you're going to wait to see, how good he's going to be when he comes back, you pick up the 5th-year option for Aiden, right? But if you sign JMO right now, the school of thought that I'm rolling with here is his contract will be cheaper if you do it now. If you wait a year, it's going to be more expensive. And JMO would probably be more apt to take a lower paycheck now so that he has some assurity, number one. Number two, he only reached 1,000 yards once. It's not like, he had a great breakout season, but it's not like it was crazy good. For us, it was crazy good because every time he touched the ball, you thought that he was going to go to the house. And I think that is the part of his game that might get the most attention in contract negotiations, is that he is somebody that can take the ball to the house at any moment. But knowing Brad Holmes, if he were to sign JMO right now, obviously the contract would be in our favor. I think if you even want to say that, it's in the Lions' favor, and they will have an out built into it where they could trade him if they needed to get off the contract. And I know I caught like some flack this morning because people think that, I'm thinking that Kirby is no good and he needs to go. That's not that. If that's what you guys took out of this morning, you should probably go watch it again, because I put a lot of work in to bring the points that nobody else talks about. Frankly, I don't even think people understand the stuff that I talk about half the time. I'm bringing the high-level overview of what happens when. And the point that I'm making with like Kirby is there is not a team out there right now that is paying 2 safeties top money. There's not one. Nobody does it because you can't afford a $50 million safety room, right? There's only 2 safeties on the field. You can't afford that to cost you $50 million a year. And so the point of this morning is, are you willing to not pay Branch next year or Kirby this year? Or said it another way, who are you not going to sign next year? Jahmyr Gibbs, Jack Campbell, Brian Branch, Sam Laporta. That's the problem that we're up against. We're up against Brad Holmes being that good at bringing players in that at some point the cap is just depleted. You can't sign everybody. And we know that. Brad and Dan have told you guys and myself time and time and time again, we will lose players. At some point, it is going to be so good that you're getting rid of extremely good players. There will not be any 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th round draft picks starting on this defense or offense. At some point, you're going to have all of your best picks playing. And then beyond that, you just need guys that can fill. And they're not going to be very expensive players. And so that this morning's conversation is, you have to strike when the iron's hot, right? And Kirby just had a crazy good year that is not repeatable. Hardly any safety repeats the success that Kirby just had. I don't know of anybody that's done it. And so if a team is coming to you with a second-round pick, you take it. You take it because then you don't have to pay him, and you get a second-round pick that you can replace him with easily. And then you can keep Brian Branch. So I guess the question you have to ask yourself, do you want Branch or do you want Kirby? Is Kirby willing to play on a $4.5 million contract this year? Or is he going to sit out? Because if he's going to sit out, you trade him. That's how that all works. And that's what I'm trying to bring to the table. No one else, I said, no one else is talking about this stuff. These are the things that you're going to get from this channel that are so different. Because I don't know of anybody that would waste 3 hours of their time doing research to talk about a topic that is full of nothing but facts and stats and analytics like I do. It's just what I do. It's just who I am. So I do those high-level overviews on a player situation. I try to do one a day, or, at least a few a week. And then now that we're in this season, our off season, I have more time to do that stuff because there's nothing else going on with the team. So I have more time to put towards it. So that's the question you got to ask yourself. I would love to see Kirby back. 1,000%. Would love to see him back. But he's up against, a contract season. And the Lions are up against, who do we pay? And it's a simple math problem, right? You can't pay Aiden. And you can't pay Kirby. And you can't pay Branch. And you can't pay Laporta. And you can't pay all these guys. You just can't. Go look at every team out there. How many max contracts do you have on a team? Said another way, look, if the cap is $280 million this year, I'm just going to throw that number out. If the cap is $280, you've got 22 starters, right? 11 offense, 11 defense. Well, let's just say you have 6 guys on each side. I'm just throwing numbers out live. I haven't done the math. We're going to do the math. Let's say you have 6 guys on either side that have a max contract. And then your quarterback. Well, let's say your max contract averages probably $18 million. So 18 million times 12, that's $216 million. And then you got your quarterback, $55 million. That's $271 million on a $280 million cap. How are you going to sign another 30 players with $9 million? Doesn't work. The math doesn't math. So again, you can't keep everybody. And that's why we have the conversations that we have to prep you, because if it happens, hey, at least you heard it here first, right? We've got to look ahead. We're only going to get better. Harpazzo, so I think I just explained it. Why can't we keep Kirby and Branch? You can. Who are you going to lose? Who are you going to lose if you keep both of them? It would have to be somebody. The math that I just did, if you had 12 contracts at an average of $18 million apiece, you have $9 million left over on a $280 million cap to sign, 30 players or 40 players. And you still have more than that to sign. That just gets you to your top 51. So cap space goes up every season. Yes, it does. And that's why I said 280. Right now, the Lions, I think, have the 8th most cap space. They're sitting at roughly, and the cap space doesn't matter. It's the cap. It's the total cap. You guys are going to make me stay on longer. Hold on here. I do this every year, too. Like, we'll manage the roster. Hold on. Let me bring this in. I don't even know if you guys can see that because that looks a bit small. Let me try to make this a little bit bigger. Okay, so this is your cap table for the Lions. All right. So right now, total cap allocations, the Lions have $240 million. They have $58 million in cap space, which is the 8th most. They only have dead cap of 6.6 right now, right? When the new league year starts, there's going to be some changes to this because all of the voided contracts and all of the future bonuses to players that will need to get paid will make this number bigger. Okay. So right now, if I were to go in and manage this roster and I was to start allocating some bigger dollar amounts to players, you're going to see how this cap will shrink. So looking at 2026 right now, okay, it looks like we have a lot of cap space at 84 million, right? Well, it's kind of a lie because we only have like 23 guys signed. That's it. That's all we have signed. There should be a number down here somewhere. Over the cap does it better. But I'm pretty sure we only have 23 guys signed in 2026. So that means you're going to have to sign. I mean, you need 90 guys to hit training camp with, and the top 51 count towards the roster or towards the cap space. So that number is not 84 million. It's way less than that. But let's go back to 2025. So right now we have $58 million to work with. Okay. You have Kirby Joseph that you're going to sign an extension to. Well, typically the extension won't hit until 2026. So, okay. Well, we just saw that the number in 2026 was 84. Well, let's say we pay Kirby $20 million a year because this morning, as we went through all the numbers, 20 million is like the average rate for a top 4, top 5 safety right now that Kirby is. Well, that just took that 84 and dropped it to 64. And I'm just going to use round numbers. I'm not going to consider when the amounts hit. I'm just using APY. And then next year we have, all right, Branch. Well, Branch is going to command the same amount of money. So there's another 20 million. So now we're down to 44 million. Oh, wait, we've got to sign Hutchinson. And we've got to sign JMO. Oh, well, there's Hutchinson. That's 30 million. Now we're down to 14 million. JMO's going to take 15 million. Now we're down to a minus $1 million. And we still haven't touched Jack Campbell, right? We haven't touched Jameer Gibbs. I mean, that's going to be a big deal. We haven't touched, a new left tackle yet. At some point, we're going to need that. How about Alex Anzalone? Are we going to re-sign him again? How about Amik Robertson? Or how about Carlton Davis? We need a new corner this year because of Carlton. He's a $15 million a year guy. So let's just say we bring Carlton back. So now we're down to minus 16 million, and we've only touched Carlton and JMO and Aiden and Kirby and Branch. That's it. So Jack Campbell, well, there goes another 15 mil at least, right? So now we're negative 31 million. Well, we've got to replace Zadarius Smith at some point. Oh, no, wait. We've got to sign our rookies. There's another 15 mil off the docket or off the balance sheet. Now we're upside down 46 million. What else is on here? Sam Laporta. Going to have to sign him. What's your average going rate for a top 10 tight end? 10, 12 million a year. Now we're upside down 58 million. What else is on here that we might want to sign? Don't really see a whole lot. But you see where I'm going with this? You can't keep everybody. It's not possible. It's not feasible. No team has ever done it. And I'm just throwing out round numbers. Every year I'll go through and we'll break all this down. We'll do a full episode of breaking down and managing a roster and just seeing kind of what fits as we get through free agency. Same thing I did last year. And that's how we're able to figure out, that's how I was able to figure out, well, second tier guys is what we're looking at. The second tier guys is what we were going to bring in for a defensive end. And we brought in Davenport, that we were going to bring in a couple of corners, and it was going to be in that $20 million range. And that's what it was. It was just based on the numbers, right? It was going through all the numbers and trying to figure out, like this morning, I showed everybody the craziness that I do in figuring out, the percentages of every positional cap space, right? And that looks a little bit like this. Nope, not that. That's the wrong sheet. No, that's Ookla. Here we go. So this is my spreadsheet that has every position, right? Offense, defense, and then all of the other positions. And then it's broken down by how much they spend. You know, for instance, right here, safety. I don't know who this is. I don't know which team that is, but they spend $31 million on their safety room, and that's 12.26% of their cap. And out of that $31 million, $25 million that's probably the Tampa Bay Bucks, is going to one player. So $6 million is going to another 4 or 5 players. So that's why I know that no other team out there is paying 2 safeties top tier money. You're going to have one guy getting paid, and then you're going to have a second tier guy, and then you're going to have, you know, lower rookies, first, second year players. Maybe they were UDFAs, maybe they were 7th, 6th round, 5th round picks. You know, guys coming off free agency that just haven't landed with a team. Maybe they're, you know, looking for just something to play. So that's the thing that I do. I look deep into the numbers. I don't just come up with hot air and yell into my microphone that I'm right about everything and this is what's got to happen and Brad Holmes is wrong, and I don't do that. If anything, I back up Brad Holmes and what they're doing and try to bring the information that you deserve, which is well thought out information that is backed by legit numbers that a general manager would look at. And it's just part of what I've done my whole life. It fit into my career path, which is, you know, acquisitions of companies. So that's what I do. Hopefully you'll understand it later when I get better at it, right? I still got a lot of work to do and get this ship going in the right direction so I can bring more well thought out segments to you guys. So Aaron Leitart, I think that's your last name, says that Branch isn't just a safety, he plays nickel and corner. See, that's a great perspective, right? That's why I think you keep Branch over Kirby, because he can play 3 different positions. Now, Kirby in the, you know, divisional round, he ended up having to come down and play. I think he was down in the slot. He was definitely down in the box. He might have even been playing a little bit of corner because of all the injuries that we suffered. But that's not his position. I mean, let's just be real here. That's not his position. But Branch, you know, he can put him anywhere you want. Kirby is a safety. And versatility is what Brad Holmes loves. And that's why I think, based on positional spending, if you can get a high draft pick for Kirby, not only would you be able to replace him with, you know, a pretty damn good safety, but then you reduce that cap number from 20 million to like 3 million in the second round. That's a big difference. You're saving 17 million that you can then spend on Brian Branch next year, or you're saving 17 million that you can put towards Aiden Hutchinson's extension, or Jahmyr Gibbs' extension, or Sam Laporta's extension, because I don't think that those guys are going to go away. I don't. I think that unfortunately you're going to have some casualties of the players that Brad Holmes has brought in. Now, by no means am I saying that I think that Kirby's going to get traded. I'm not saying that. This is a what-if scenario. What would you do if a team was offering you a big pick for Kirby? And, I mean, what would you do? You'd be faced with a big decision. It's tough. And it's tough as fans because, I mean, I've been a huge supporter of Kirby. I love the work that he does. I'd hate to see him go. But that's where I can kind of separate my emotions from trying to deliver content, I guess. I'll let you guys have the emotions. Trust me, I hear it in the comments. So anyway, that's it. I stood on for, you know, an extra 15, 20 minutes here. I'll be back in the morning. So now what am I going to do tonight? What do you guys want in the morning? Who should I bring? You know, some free agents? Should I talk about some free agents tomorrow? And we'll figure out who makes a good fit just in case we do have to lose some players. But hey, we got some holes. We have some holes to fill. So let's see what Brad Holmes is going to do this season. We'll find some free agents for the morning. We'll be back 8 a.m. And that's right, Trace. We'll see what Brad cooks up because at the end of the day, I'm just an armchair GM having fun. That's all. We're just here to have fun. And I love and respect all of your comments and thoughts and and everything too. So phone lines will be open tomorrow, 8:30 in the morning. If you want to talk about it, we'll talk about it. We'll see you guys back here in the morning. Take care. Go and probably go Detroit Lions. We'll see you.
In the city, where the road meets the night, the Lions charge, ready for the fight. Noble hearts and steadfast pride. Detroit spirit, we wear it white. Feel the drive, hear the crowds embrace. Rock on, Detroit Lions will rise. With a heart full of dreams and the fire in our eyes. From the past to the future, we'll claim our own. In the home of the brave, we'll proudly have grown. In the city, where the road meets the night, the Lions charge, ready for the fight. Noble hearts and steadfast pride. Detroit spirit, we wear it white. Feel the drive, hear the crowds embrace. Rocked on, Detroit Lions will rise. Rocked on, Detroit Lions will rise. With a heart full of dreams and the fire in our eyes. From the past to the future, we'll claim our own. In the home of the brave, we'll proudly have grown. With every game, we rise and unite. Feeling the passion igniting the light. Through highs and lows, we'll stand as one. A legacy, a tale that's just begun.